Hi everyone, this is Julie Barela Mills with Jam Magazine. We have on the phone today the legendary multi-instrumental artist who is a member of such bands as Fandango, Rainbow, Deep Purple, and others throughout his illustrious career. Based on the information provided to us through his official Facebook page, JLT, as he's known by his legions of fans around the world, will have 3 appearances in Texas this upcoming week. On the 18th in Houston, followed by San Antonio on the 20th, and finally the 21st at the Curtain Club in Dallas, with proceeds going to benefit the Dallas Fallen Officer Foundation in memory of the 5 officers who were ambushed and killed by lone gunmen this past July 7th. Hi, Joe. How are you?
Hi, Julie. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you again. Hey, first of all, my sincere thanks to you for taking the time out of your busy touring and traveling schedule to speak with us here at Jam Magazine.
You're very welcome. Appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, first of all, I'd like to ask you, I know you just came back from a tour overseas a couple of days ago. Joe, how are you able to be so mentally and physically fit while on the road and still perform the high energy shows like you do?
Well, I try to stay in the gym and eat, healthy foods, take vitamins, supplements, things like that, and keep a positive attitude. I think all those things combined give you the vitality you need, because I don't believe in subscribing to a certain age figure or number, shall we say. Some people hit 50, 60 years old and they just subscribe to that. That's something I've really never entertained at all in my life, and I think that helps a great deal as well. But trying to stay healthy, and I've had my medical problems during my life. You don't get to be 65 and not, but at the same time, I'm doing very well now, thank God, and I'm on the way and on the road.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe the last time you had performed in Texas was on Independence Day 2009 as a member of the band Over the Rainbow. I was there that night, and I remember there was a huge crowd, and your band opened up for the Cult. Of course, it's been quite a few years since I heard about OTR, so could you enlighten our listeners as to what happened to this band?
Yeah, Over the Rainbow was a fantastic project and a great bunch of guys, but like all things, sometimes like I would compare it to a bad marriage. You started fighting and there's egos, and it started to get out of control. And once that happened, I really I don't agree with any of that. So I started to back out, and I just said, look, you guys, you can go on if you want, get another singer, etc. They tried, but no promoters would have it. I knew this already because I was the key within this component there, myself and Jürgen Blackmore. However, all I can say is that I was very dissatisfied with the way things were going and the attitudes within the band itself. I didn't start that project to have this sort of situation occur. And I told them all, and I warned them all, but nobody listened. Yeah, it was a great situation, but, it happens. It happens in a lot of bands. As I said, I compare it to a bad marriage, and this is what happens. So, it's very familiar out there within the business.
Now, staying with the subject of Rainbow, you did a one-night-only performance in Japan in August 2006, which was dubbed as a tribute to Rainbow. Take me back, if you could, Joe, and recall the experience of what it was like to perform some of the music you had co-created with a full orchestra behind you.
Well, first of all, I love working with an orchestra. I think that it's, when they talk about heavy metal, I mean, you've got the horns, the violins. It's just incredible sound that encompasses you. And yes, that was, I believe it was that the all-orchestra one, right? Where
Yes.
It wasn't even a rock band in front. And that was really exciting because I played many times with rock bands in front of orchestras, which is always thrilling. But this was just the orchestra. So the violins were taking the guitar parts, et cetera, and it was phenomenal. It was one of the loudest things I've ever heard. If you think a rock band is loud, you should stand in front of a 36-piece orchestra and see what happens to you. So it was thrilling, absolutely amazing. One of the highlights of my life.
Well, one of the things that I enjoyed about it, and I happen to own a bootleg of it, was your rendition of what I consider your signature track, which is Street of Dreams. And it was absolutely, positively phenomenal. I mean, I remember hearing just you holding that last note, and then there is just absolute silence. And you just held that note for such a long time, and the silence hit, and then all of a sudden the crowd just absolutely just went bananas. And for a Japanese crowd, that was something.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, if you wouldn't mind, can you get me a copy of that? Because I don't believe I have a copy of that.
Absolutely,
And,
yeah.
it would be wonderful for my archives. And yes, the Japanese fans, though, they're amazing. They're overwhelming and amazing. They're very loyal, and as you said, you don't hear a pin drop until the song or the piece is completed, and then they just go bananas.
I was actually surprised about that because I remember an interview that you did that I guess that someone had asked you why you didn't actually release it. You had mentioned that there was, of course, monetary issues that were involved with that. Because, I mean, it would have taken like at least $50,000 or more just to be able to, set up the recording and stuff. But for whomever did the recording of that bootleg, I'll tell you, it was one heck of a piece. It may not be to maybe your standards, so to speak, but the fact is, for fans like myself, it really, really was a masterpiece of a recording.
Well, with that accolade, I'd love to have a copy, so thank you, Billy, in advance.
You're welcome. Switching gears again, I would like to ask you about the release this past March from your solo career, entitled "Street of Dreams, Boston, 1985." This recording was first broadcast through Westwood One radio networks in March of 1986, and then became a widely circulated bootleg. What was the delay in releasing this recording after 30 years?
Well, to be quite honest, Cleopatra, a very well-known independent record label, which I commend them for. What they're doing is they're taking artists in these bootlegs that have been circulating for the last 30 years, and what they're doing is that they're remastering them, cleaning them up a bit, and although there's no overdubs, that's for sure. In other words, we never did any other musicals. The way it was is the way it is as far as the musicians. But what they do is they clean it up a little bit with a modern technology, and they press it into a CD and they sell it. And the artist now has the opportunity to say this is actually his property. And they've done it for quite a few other people as well. And I think it's a great practice because what happens is there's a lot of bootleggers out there who are making money off this. Now it is illegal to sell this other than the actual formal legal release by Cleopatra Records. So that's the first thing. And the reason why it wasn't released was because no one had this particular idea, I'm sure. Once it's out, as you know, on the Internet, it's free. Yeah. Like everything else is today, it's free. Sure. So you really can't trace it, you really can't track it down, and you can't, artists cannot receive any money for it. So through Cleopatra, at least, we have some hope, because I know they're continuing this particular sequence of gaining artists, bootlegs that are out there, and making them legal. So
is that even then, even with the radio recording that they release, that's their property until the time it comes, like what Cleopatra did? So because, it was broadcast on a radio show. You even mentioned that in the actual recording itself, hey, we're on the radio. And right. I'm just surprised that you just never received that. That is just wrong, actually.
No, I never received half of the things. The artists you'll find, and many, many, many artists, if not all, they don't receive these kinds of things, unless you ask for it way ahead of time. When you're so busy working and you're so busy making the music and traveling, I think we were on tour with Pat Benatar at the time, and this was a one-off in Boston. So you just keep moving. You're moving like a shark in the water, and you don't stop. Right. So to go back and say, well, can I get this particular recording? You really have to have people on the team doing that all the time.
True.
And some people do, most people don't. And it always surfaces somewhere online. And I've heard this recording before, and it's an absolute stunning recording. I think the band was completely perfect that night. We never did, like as I said, no overdubs, nothing. We never improved or corrected anything, and that's just the way it happened. All the stringing, all the perfect notes, and the band was on fire. So Cleopatra did another great service by releasing that. And again, I appreciate their efforts.
Yeah, definitely. And you had some amazing recordings of some unreleased stuff there, in particular, like Good Girls Gone Bad, and I Found Love, which was on
Yeah,
a movie that you had, a documentary movie from, that release was in '86 also, called Stripper. So that,
or
and
the Canadian ballet.
exactly. That's what they call the more PC version of that, I
That's
suppose.
correct. It was originally called Canadian Ballet, and I
Okay.
think they got more flaw with Stripper. So
Oh, okay. Well, I
that was a
appreciate.
fun thing.
Well, I was actually hoping that one day you'll be able to release something like Lady Blue. That is an
Great song. Great
absolutely
song.
amazing song.
Well, I mean, we still own the rights to the songs. We don't own the rights to the recordings because we're paid for the recordings. That's just mechanicals, but we can re-record any and all songs. Absolutely.
Okay.
Good Girls, Lady Blue, which is, I think you're right. Thank you for mentioning that because it just came to my mind. I went, oh, that's great ballad. Yeah, okay,
It was.
sure.
It was. It'd be wonderful for for another solo album at some point. Hint, hint. Anyways, of course, I also want to talk to you about your latest recording, Sunstorm, Edge of Tomorrow. Even though there's no writing credits attributed to you,
That's
what
correct.
what are some of the themes addressed in the lyrics of this latest recording?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I had full control over all of the songs this time on the Sunstorm. That was one of our demands, so to speak, and I was in complete communication with Alessandro Del Vecchio, who produced the record this time. He also sang background and played keyboards on it, and he produced a really fine album. So I was every step of the way. I was with the sound that we wanted and the type of writing, et cetera, et cetera. Mostly the reason why I wasn't involved in the writing was because I was too busy either on tour and/or writing for another project,
I
which is
see.
maybe down the line we can talk about that.
Okay.
But yes, I made sure that, as Alessandro said, he wrote for me, and
Okay.
he knows me very well. He also produced the Rated X album. He co-wrote on that album as well, so we have a long history, and we understand each other perfectly. So that's how it seems tailor-made for me.
So from start to finish, how long, I mean, with a project such as this, when you're working with somebody or collaborating with somebody in a different aspect and you're touring, usually it takes about what, maybe 2-3 months to make an album from start to finish. Does this usually kind of extend itself to about a year, maybe then, or what?
It could. I don't like to do albums over a year. I mean, I get in the studio and I bang it out because it's the moment that counts. And some guys take a long time to do records, and I think it's to their negative interest for that because you really have to capture something. So I think I did the vocals very nonchalantly in about a month's time.
Okay.
That's about 11 tracks or so, and I would go in, sing a track, rest the day, sing another track, and so on. So if you add it up, it's about 4 weeks for 11 or 12 tracks. And, and which was a comfortable pace. And we delivered it on time, et cetera. And we were getting back to the themes here. I mean, The Edge of Tomorrow is a really important track. And I believe I urge people to seek out the video. We've got about 300,000 views and hits, as you would say, on the video already. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing video that was filmed in Vikos Canyon, Greece, which is the Canyon of the Gods. And we had one day to do it, and it just came out spectacular. We had an amazing producer, Menelaus. And to make a long story short, if I can, this song is about the geopolitical situation that's happening in the world today. Thinly disguised poetically, but at the same time, it's really questioning the fact of, do we have it tomorrow?
True.
Will there be a future for us and our children?
Oh, absolutely. And I know you have addressed those in some of your solo records, particularly like a song like Days of Rage.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I know there was some other stuff that you did, particularly on, I believe it was on the Slam album that you did some kind of things. You talked about, and there's other songs that you've talked about, New World Orders and things. And I just,
Sure.
it's incredible. But then you have songs, for example, like Love Is on Our Side, which was off of Secondhand Life, which basically you talk about, having this prayer that's saying, hopefully, that, everything will change. And everything will be for the better. But I mean, I definitely understand when you're talking about something like this geopolitical situation, especially in Edge of Tomorrow. And I will say, as far as the video is concerned, I when I first watched it, I almost had like vertigo because
Right?
seriously, I mean, I'm like, whoa. But I mean, wow, I'm surprised you were able to. I mean, I was like praying, do not fall off that mountain, Joe. Jeez.
Well, I had vertigo myself, and I was surprised that I actually stuck through took us an afternoon to do it. We started out in the morning to get to the mountain, and then this canyon is the deepest canyon in the world,
Yeah.
deeper than the Grand Canyon. And it's pretty frightening when you're on the edge of that rock, representing the edge of tomorrow, obviously.
Right.
And my vertigo, as I said, is not real good. So, for whatever reason, but I managed to pull this one off, walk that thin alleyway, and do what the director wanted me to do. But I have to tell you, I had my heart in my throat most of the time doing it.
Oh, I believe it.
So, many people think this is a green screen, but you don't. No, this is no green screen, people.
Yeah.
This is for real. You've got to check out video Edge Tomorrow.
I don't know, Joe. What is your octave range? You have a five.
Like 5 octaves or something, yeah. But I never look at it that way. I just sing for what is required for the track. So
Well,
I never really look at it as octaves, or that's more operatic, I think. But I think it's about 5.
it's just the way it flowed, and I think it's had a lot of elements in which really highlighted your voice. And I just really, really enjoyed hearing that song.
Very motivated song. That's why we have a lot of positive messages, Julie. At the same time, we do talk about the doom and gloom that exists. So it's a fine balance of both.
Initially, when I first spoke to you about it about a couple of months ago, I had just started to hear it. I just bought it digitally, and I was just like, wow. Okay, let me take a more of a listen to it. And I really, really enjoyed it, and I really, really love the fact that you did release this, even though we would love to hear a solo album from you at some point. So, anyways,
Well, I mean, in many ways, this is a solo album. Elvis never wrote a song in his life, so it's not like that. And besides, what happened here in the writing, which I omitted, but because I don't like to take credit for things, but what happened is I've changed a lot of lyrics, I changed a lot of melodies, and Alessandro and the guys knew I would do that. They said, Joe Lynn Turnerize it, and that's what I did. But when it came down to taking credit for it, I don't really feel that is... I'm a generous person, and I don't really feel that I need to take credit for that. I've got enough of my own stuff that I do. And something like that is just what we call a song doctor. So I was the song doctor on that, and I delivered it in my way. So thank you for those accolades. I appreciate it. But that's what I've been known for all my life, is the delivery and connecting with the song, which makes it connect with the people.